Hi, welcome Diana. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, glad to be here.
Good, good, good. And just to introduce myself, I'm Keris Rees, as you know, and we've also got Ray Morgan on the call as well. And we're here just to ask you a few questions for our proposal that we're doing at the moment, just regarding your experience really after being qualified as a personal trainer. And we're looking to develop the course as much as possible and hopefully get some feedback from you on maybe things that you've really picked up after the qual, and looking at ways that we can integrate that information into our learners for future years. Is that okay, Diana?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah.
So it won't take up too much of your time, but it's just a few questions that I wanted to slowly go through with you, if possible. I'm just going to go through each bit, just bit by bit. And just, yeah, any questions that you've got going through as well, please feel free just to ask. And it's really important that you just answering these as honestly as possible, really. Yeah, feel free to, answer them in the best way that you can and as honest as you can as well. So first question is, so we have 5 questions. The first question is, how prepared did you feel for industry after you qualified as a personal trainer?
I would say, in all honesty, I felt quite anxious about starting. That I felt I kind of had the bare bones of it. I knew in theory what to do, but I wouldn't say I felt confident to have a really integrated package that I could just completely hit the ground running. But part of that's just experience, and I know that you just need to go and try it. So I kind of feel I had the skeleton tools that I needed.
Yeah.
But I needed quite a bit more padding to really feel like I could confidently step out by myself, I think.
That's brilliant. Okay, and so in terms of that padding that you said, what qualities as a personal trainer do you feel could have been in depth?
I think for me, I probably needed some more practice at integrating that initial assessment and the fitness testing that you do, and then using that information really effectively and making sure that's been that I've properly done those tests to then create those 12-week plans. So it's more the beginning section, making sure that's right. I kind of felt my soft skills were okay. Although when it came to the fitness testing, I kind of feel we covered some of it, but we didn't necessarily look at how we approach that with a client, how we explain it, how we then look at using the norm referencing. So I kind of hadn't joined up all the dots really, I guess, with making sure all those different elements, I think integrating it is the word. So it was getting more practice, but it was about putting those pieces together and understanding more how they link and directly and how to create the best possible program. I'm just feeling confident with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Diana. And then third question, I'm going to just go through some different tests, some health-related tests. And we'll go through them one by one, but how many of the following health-related tests did you cover as part of your personal training qualification? I wanted to almost think of it in 3 different terms, in terms of administering the test, actually comparing the results to norm referencing, and then also giving the results to the client as well.
Okay.
The first one would be blood pressure.
We definitely did practice that on the qualification, taking blood pressure. I have to be honest, I don't have a very strong memory of, I knew what the norms were because we talked about them in our A&P. Yeah. And I don't really remember properly sitting down and giving feedback to the client on that. I think it was just done as part of a raft of things that we kind of did quickly one after the other. Yeah. So I'd say we went through part of that process, but maybe not the whole process.
Okay, great. And then height and weight.
Yeah, we did height and weight. I remember doing that in the gym. Again, the norm referencing, it's always a bit difficult when you're doing it with colleagues, when you're doing things like weight, I think. So we would have, you know, told them what their weight was. And I guess we would have used it for kind of working out BMI. So I suspect we probably did talk about it, but I think we could probably have done with going through more of the soft skills around how to approach that and the best way of dealing with that and making it a usable measure and knowing when it's important to do that and when maybe it's important not to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say more the soft skills around that would be more important.
Okay, great. And then you touched on BMI there. Anything else you wanted to add for that in terms of the testing, comparing and giving the results?
I think it's just getting confident about how you calculate the BMI and making sure that when you go out, I think one of the most important things with these tests is when you're doing it with a client that you look proficient and professional and you're able to do it, you know, quite quickly without having to look too much up. So I knew what to do, but I think I was still at the stage where I would have had to have, you know, looked up how to do it. And so it just felt a bit clunky, I'd say. So I wasn't using it in a slick enough way.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and waist circumference.
Yeah, I definitely remember doing waist circumference. I think we had some sheets looking at the sort of the YMCA referencing for some norm referencing there. So we did do it, but again, in terms of relating it to the other things and in terms of maybe giving the feedback to the client, I think we probably didn't really cover.
Yeah, and then the waist to hip ratio.
Yes, I think by this stage it was maybe it was getting a little bit woolly. So I remember, I think I remember doing waist to hip ratio. Again, I think afterwards I would have definitely had to go and look up how to do it. And again, I don't really remember giving meaningful feedback on that one, but we did definitely do it. And I know there were norm referencing, but yeah, I wouldn't have felt immediately confident in using that.
Okay, and then the body composition calipers.
Do you mean the handheld calipers?
Yes, yeah.
I didn't practice using the hand calipers at all, so I wouldn't know how to use those. And I know that there are charts for using those, but I even now don't know how to use those.
Okay, and bioelectrical impedance.
We did practice doing that using just the small handheld one. And we did look up the norm referencing for that. So yeah, we did use that, but I'm just aware that there's quite a variation in the scores. So it's not always accurate. And I think, again, I would just highlight the preparation of your client before you do that and deciding whether it's the most appropriate test to do with them. So again, it's choosing which tests you do that maybe we need to think about a little bit more, and helping PTs have sort of good professional judgment about which ones they use and why they're using them and how to best communicate that with the client. So again, with that, I'd say soft skills are really crucial. It's not just about numbers, is it?
No. Okay, that's brilliant, Diana. That's fab. Moving on, just on to question 4 now. Quite similar. I've got a list of fitness tests this time, and again, exactly the same question in terms of administering the test, comparing to norm referencing, and actually giving the results to the client.
Yeah.
First one is the Astran bike test.
I actually never did this on the course.
Yeah.
So I've never done the Astran bike test. I know it's there and I know there are norm referencing there, but I don't know how to do it, and I never actually did it. I think different people were doing different ones and I never did that one.
That's fine, no problem. The Rockport walking test.
I, again, didn't do that. So I'd never actually done it by the time I left. So I was aware of it, but never done it. And I know there's a really complicated way of working it out. So I do not know how to do that one at all.
No problem. The step test.
Now that one I did do, and actually that's probably one of the ones I feel most confident about. So yes, definitely did that. And I think I probably would feel quite confident at replicating that, and I have used it. The difficulty is actually finding the correct height step. That's quite a tricky thing to do in practice. But again, I do know the norm referencing for that, so I'm quite happy with that one.
Yep. Okay, thank you. And then the Cooper 12-minute run.
I did do that one. That's the one we did do. So I feel quite happy with actually administering that test, I think, if I just quickly read up the protocols. But I would definitely need to have the norm referencing with me, and I'd like to practice it more times before I was using it regularly in my clinical practice now. And yeah, it's just having practice giving the correct instructions. I think these were some of the things that I've come to realize, that actually it's only a meaningful test if you give the instructions really, really clearly, and you know, prepare the client well. So yeah, I think that's so important to get across when you are training.
Yeah, great, thank you, Diana. And the sit and reach test?
Yes, we did the sit and reach test for hamstring length. Again, I probably feel fairly confident on that one. It's a fairly straightforward test, and yeah, I've got the norm referencing for that, so I think I'd be quite happy with that one.
Yep, great. And then so also more of your visual assessment or your postural assessment.
Yep, so we did just visual assessment, and we did using the postural app. I have to say I struggled with the app to be able to get meaningful information from it. So I personally prefer just doing the postural assessment visually. So I think we covered that quite well. Again, I'll just go back to the soft skills about how you talk to the client about that, and just making them comfortable to do that. Because it's one thing to stand, you know, when you're with colleagues, but another thing when you've got a client, if you're asking them to, you know, I don't know if you want them to sort of undress or whatever, you just have to be really careful as to how you do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but otherwise that's okay.
Great. Okay, and the abdominal curl test.
Now this one I really struggle with, because I saw different people doing the abdominal curl in different ways. Some doing like a little crunch, and other people doing full sit-ups. So, and I think I wasn't clear what the really correct procedure was. So I kind of looked at the norm referencing and thought, well, that completely depends. Oh, hang on. Sorry, light's gone out. It completely depends on how exactly you give the instructions to do it. So I think it's about making that test actually valid, to make sure it's that whole sort of repeatability thing. So I came away going, well, I'm not quite sure about the repeatability of that. So the actual technique of that, I think I would be not 100% clear with.
Yeah, no problem. And what about the press up test?
Press up test, I know how to do, but again, I think my issue with that is the quality of the movement. It's to what point do you say that is not actually a press up that's good enough to count for the test? And because a lot of the people, I mean, I would struggle to do more than a couple of full press ups, and then it's, do you drop it down to 3/4, but then do the norm referencing still work? So I would struggle to use that against the current norm referencing, because a lot of people wouldn't even reach the paw with that. Yeah. So I do know how to do it, but I think the technique is a big issue on that one, as to what's acceptable and what's not.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And then an estimation of the 8 to 12 rep max test.
I actually don't remember really practicing that on the course, and it is such an important one to do, you know, for planning your, you know, your 12-week program and things. So I think that's one that I wouldn't feel, or didn't feel, terribly confident when I left. I think I knew in theory you just keep trying until you find the right one, but I'd like more input on that one,
Sure.
to make sure, again, it's to make sure these are really appropriate, done properly, and, you know, will form the basis of the rest of your treatment.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Not treatment, program, you know, exercise program.
And then the standing stalk and flamingo tests.
I sometimes get confused as to which is which on those ones. So the going up on your tiptoes, we did do that. But again, you have to make sure you give the right instructions, because you can have some practice beforehand. And then I think we didn't do the other one because that was on a beam, and we didn't actually do the beam one, but we did do just the floor-based one. So yeah, that's okay. That's okay, that one. But I've only done the stalk, I think it is.
Okay, that's great. And then the final question, Diana. So this is just going to be referring to, again, thinking about this testing that we said about, and just really thinking about what resources in reference to the testing. So do you feel you would have benefited and felt more prepared for industry if you had more resources and information on the tests that we just discussed?
Definitely. I think to be able to have all the norm referencing to hand in one place, to really have a chance to practice all of them, and to have all the kind of the right equipment for all of them, and just to feel confident in the technique. So I think having more resources to refer to that are really clear about how you carry out every single test, because we had done them, but I definitely felt it was a bit of a woolly area when I came out, that I did try, but I didn't necessarily feel I was confidently getting the right enough of the really accurate information to be able to formulate a program directly from, let's say.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Diana.
That's brilliant.
That's fab. Thank you so much for your time. Any other questions for us, Diana, or all good?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not being critical of what we did, because we did cover a lot, but there was just a lot to cover in quite a short time. And I think sometimes you just need that opportunity to practice giving feedback of the results, as well as just practicing the test.
Yeah.
Because it has to be sort of something that you can meaningfully talk about, and it's something that the client understands what you're doing and why. So it's just looking at the whole package a little bit more than just a few of the individual tests.
Yeah. Thank you, Diana. That's a huge help. Thanks very much for your time.
Okay, no problem. All the best with it. Bye.